It's nefarious, man. Like, the brain works in fucked up ways.
The mind is one of the most deceiving, manipulative pieces of equipment, flesh, human bodies on earth. I never have trusted my brain.
All of that weight lives in your head, and you are the decision maker.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Hi, it's Ronsley. If this is your first volume, welcome. This is a weekly series where I go inside the mind of an entrepreneur, artist, athlete, academic to decipher what is the psychology of our decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, it is amazing how far this show has come and the kinds of people I've managed to meet and the opportunities that have risen from there. Also, how good are the team at Must Amplify? Everyone that works on this show makes it better every single week. My next guest, I've known for years. I've cooked for her birthday. I've watched her over the last few years be an amazing mother to Arya and Declan, while somehow being the wife of one of my dearest friends, who is also a huge dork. Today, on The Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Hi, I'm Peri. I used to be a competitive table tennis player. I have 2 Commonwealth Games silver medals. I competed in 3 Commonwealth Games for Australia, and I competed in table tennis for Australia for a total of 13 years.
To understand Peri is simple. She is the nicest person you'll meet until she's near a table tennis table. Well, she even really enjoyed beating me when we went bowling last month. The easiest way to explain her is that she's got something inside that I've seen in a few people. My dad has it. It's like some sort of fire. Maybe a story might illustrate what I really mean. Peri, was there ever a time your anger got the better of you after a game?
Yes, one time. I'm quite proud of my medals and I do keep a stash. My husband tried to get rid of them. And I did get rid of some trophies because I had too many. Like, it's just too many. And so I sorted them out and I threw out half of them. I've kept the ones that really mean something to me. So if you have a glass cabinet, 2 doors full of trophies, and you have 2 of them. And then you have medals as well, which are smaller, which are great. So you can package them up. I have 5 trays of medals that would probably have 50 medals in each. So I have a lot. But the one I disposed of purposefully, I was at a Queensland Championship and I had a bad loss in the semi-final. I lost to a girl that I believed I was better and I didn't realize I could lose, and she beat me at my game. She did a better job at it and hats off to her. But when I got my medal, I came home and I swiftly threw it in the Brisbane River. I think it's there at the bottom still.
When the U.S. women's gymnastic team won gold at the London Olympics, local gyms became flooded with calls from parents wanting to enroll their children in classes. But long before this summer, there were many young girls already hooked on the sport with dreams of greatness. But those dreams can't come without sacrifice.
Okay, girls, 5 straight jumps, 5 split jumps.
More than 1,000 kids take classes at Ariel's Gymnastics every week.
Come on, chin up.
But only a select few wear the orange leotard.
Good, back leg up a little more.
These are the gym's competitive gymnasts, little girls with big dreams.
One of my goals is to keep on sticking back walkovers on the beam. Maybe get a scholarship. My ultimate goal is to be a gold medalist in the Olympics.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, we go inside the mind of an international athlete, someone with so many medals that she has lost count, someone who was on the verge of representing Australia at her 4th Commonwealth Games before finding out that she was pregnant with her first child, someone who is meticulous and prepared and easily one of the most competitive people I have ever met. I would not want to get inside a steel cage with her. So, where did this all begin? I suppose is a really good place to start.
Well, I think at the start, I didn't really care for table tennis. I was a tennis player. And my cousin only just said, oh, come to this junior fixture night. And I said no, I didn't want to go. I pushed it off for 2 or 3 weeks and then eventually I went. And then the coach was there, said, come for a training session. And then 3 months later, I made the team to go to the state championships, and they put me on a plane, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. And then my coach said, oh, listen, don't expect to be ranked in Queensland. Of course, I came out number 3. Like, that's awesome. And then the following year, I came out number 1 in Queensland. I won the state junior title. So, but then you go back to training, and the coach says to me, well, no one wants to train with you because you talk all the time. So clearly I had some skills, but I was not focused at all.
If you don't know, and I haven't mentioned this before, I'm a fan of Liverpool Football Club since I was 8 years old. I'm an athlete at heart, and I like nothing more than seeing and leading a team to achieve something we've never done before. I get a lot of my learning from watching Liverpool games because I watch every single one of them. It doesn't matter if the game is at 1 a.m. or 5 a.m. It doesn't matter if I'm in the US or in India or in Australia. The only way I'll not watch a Liverpool game is if I'm on an airplane or there is an engagement that I just can't get out of. In fact, just this morning, I delayed writing this script to watch Liverpool versus Bournemouth at Anfield. So over the decades supporting my favorite football team, I've watched the lack of focus affect performance.
So it was just a muck around session, something to do from the afternoon. My sister eventually got involved as well, and we just did it. So I think that was the very start of my table tennis, and I just didn't take it seriously. It was just more fun. It was social. And I love that about it compared to tennis. It wasn't very social because you were so far away. You generally played with a coach and it was just a bit boring. But playing with someone else and then you can talk to them while you're hitting was great. And then finding out, oh, they don't actually want to practice with you because you talk too much was a bit like, oh, so now I actually have to practice properly. But I did. After that comment, that's when I got a bit more serious. So that's when I started getting national rankings, competing for Queensland. We hit a point when I got to 16, I made a national team, and I didn't think that that was going to happen. I wasn't on the list for the national team. Like, they'd already picked their A and B team. And then I think one girl couldn't go or something like that. And I'd performed really good at that nationals. And they said, well, Peri's in there, put her in. So I was in the B team. And we actually made the final. We beat the A team, and they were like, wow. Most of the A team ended up quitting that year or a few years after because they'd lost. They saw these up and comers coming. And at that tournament, I was actually approached by a sponsor.
Sponsors. There is something about getting a sponsor that makes things a bit exciting. It's a mark of belief. It's a mark of support, and definitely the mark of what the next level looks like. Before Peri gets into the story of how one of the world's most prominent sporting brands sponsored her, I was curious about rest and refresh. What part did that play in the life of a professional athlete?
When you're training, it's not just like a job. You have to be up there. You have to be totally focused. You have to be on the ball, trying to improve every shot that you do. Peak physical fitness. It's really hard doing your training every single day. And it's not just like a social sport where you hit and giggle. This is serious stuff. And I think that's where having a day off really plays a role to refresh your head. And you can actually think about it on your day off and go, okay, well, that's where I need to work on. And it gives you more perspective, I think, not just train. It's just stop. Different, refresh. It gives your body a break as well as your head. And then I think even I've heard of people who come back like a week, 2 weeks, 2 months later to training, and they're like, I'm playing amazing. They can still come back and play amazing because their head is then right. Their body may need a couple more weeks training, but their head is so refreshed. They've actually processed things in their head. And even now, going back to playing very sporadically, I can see points that I can improve on. And that gets my adrenaline pumping because I'm like, I can actually be a better player because I can see my weaknesses and I can improve them because I'm more mature, because I'm not playing as I did day in, day out. And I think it is really good. Have the day off, get some perspective, refresh everything, body, mind, and you're healthier to continue and do another 6 days of 3-4 hours training a day and work as well.
Research conducted by Time Off showed that 78% of employers that were interviewed agreed that vacations improve an employee's focus, with 81% also agreeing that it alleviates burnout.
We've been following the competition in Sudan. We didn't see you there. What happened?
As usual, I think we have a problem with fund. I was actually waiting for my association to get back to me on time, but unfortunately, what I heard from them is that Nigeria is not funding us to Sudan, so we have to, again, take out our money from our pocket. So the same thing I did last year to Cameroon, and I don't think I can be able to do the same thing again this time. This is 2016. I've not been paid the one that I went for last year, and I don't think it is going to be advisable for me to pay another money to Sudan. So that's why I didn't go, actually. But it is very, very painful. I'm really, really hot concerning this competition.
That was Olufunke Oceanaike. She is a Nigerian table tennis player and competed for Nigeria at the 2012 Olympics. Sustaining your art and your craft and your joy is everything. Because every time we make an excuse for not doing that, we are influencing the closest people around us who we are giving the permission to do exactly the same thing. About that sponsor, Peri, how did that first start? How did that happen?
So the sponsor came up to me and said, I'd like to sponsor you. Would you like some goods for free? And I'm like, yes, that would be amazing. So he gave me a box of goodies and I was super excited. I'm like, free stuff, that is so cool. I was only on like a half sponsorship. And then the following year I did another good performance in nationals and I got a full sponsorship. So from then on, I was receiving a massive packet of goods every January from Japan because it was sponsored by Butterfly. Tell them what you need and they'd come with this massive pile of rubbers which you glue on your bat and so many bats and shoes and shirts and socks, you can name it. It came in this, it was like Christmas. Maybe that's where I got my passion from, my drive from free stuff arriving at my house. Yes.
Having Indian blood, I can tell you that I love free stuff. So that was how it started. When did you make it big time? And did luck play any part in that equation?
Then obviously I made the national team, women's team, and that was like, whoa, this is big time. And then from there, because when I made the national team in 18, that was 2000 Olympics. So they had a special Olympic athlete program where there was heaps of money pumped in to the athletes just to train full time. And then following the Olympics, all of the funding cut. So all of these players quit except for 2. So 2 were left and then up came the rest. So I think on that 2000 Olympics, I came in 8th in the trials, but then there was like 3 or 4 players that quit. So we were left with the 1 and 2 and then up we come. So that's how I made the team. And I think from then, the Commonwealth Games and Olympics was a real goal because table tennis was first introduced into the Commonwealth Games in 2002, and that was when I was 19. So that was a really big trials that we had, my first really big pressure. And I succeeded. I came in 4th and they took 5 in the team. And it was just amazing going to the Commonwealth Games. It's something that I'd never realised before that you could do. Apart from the World University Games, I went to that as well. That was in Beijing. Yet again, getting all this free stuff, free clothing. It's just all green and bright yellow.
The life of anyone that puts their heart on the line includes setbacks. For an entrepreneur, it could be attempting a new project and unexpected stuff comes up. For a mother, it could be an embarrassing situation because of something her child did. For an athlete, it's injuries.
I didn't have a lot of bad injuries at all. Table tennis isn't really contact sport. So I think the contact sports have a lot more injuries. But I did tear my infraspinatus partially. And that played a role, I think, subconsciously on my head. So instead of using my arm in a natural motion, I ended up using my traps to pull the ball up. And I would get more pain because I didn't trust that my arm could do it anymore. So I ended up actually competing in the Olympic trials after I'd torn it very recently. So this was the second time. I did the same injury 2 times. So it was the second time. And that was when I had a real chance for 2008. And my arm I couldn't hold it up. It would just flop and fall. And so I ended up losing and not making it. But from then on, I was always scared that it wouldn't hold up. Do you know what I mean? And I should have really done more work on it, visualization and tried to relax more, because always my traps would then take the load. And that wasn't very good, because in table tennis, you really need your hand and your forearm, wrist, just to move the ball as quick as you can, because you need to create the top spin or the back spin. So that's one of my regrets, not doing enough in my head to manage the injury that I had. So I'm sure there's some scar tissue in there, which doesn't make it move as well as it did before. But yeah, I should have done better managing it, I think.
Every injury has to be managed. Have you managed your injuries better? If you had a setback tomorrow, do you know what you'd do next? Do you know what you do to gain perspective? And while gaining perspective is important, harnessing your strengths and embracing your inner fanatic is, well, even more important.
When I got into the open ranks, I made an Australian final 1 time. So basically I was, 2 times. So one was the Australian national final and one was the top 10 final. So I came second in both of those. Generally, my ranking was 4 in Australia. So we had a few Chinese that obviously started in China from the age of 5, let's say. And me starting at 12, it's very hard to compete. Plus, in Brisbane, there isn't a lot of training, really good training partners. So the level's not as good here. In Sydney and Melbourne, it's a bit higher. So the national coach actually came up on weekends and stayed at our house and trained us just to get some intense training sessions in. And that's where he gave me the nickname, the Fanatic, because I loved training. Like, I love getting more balls on. Table tennis is just such an exciting sport. And to get another ball on when it's flying at you so fast is just like, oh yeah, I got that on. It's like, whoa, that was awesome. I didn't know I could do that.
Whoa, that was awesome. I didn't know I could do that. That for me is a feeling I crave. I remember the first time I realized my first business, which was a Portuguese Indian restaurant with a menu that never existed on the planet before, it became a reality. That idea used to be a drawing in a book. And here I was across the street from it while it was full with people experiencing something for the first time in their lives. That is a feeling I will never forget. Everyone has that fire in their belly. Some of us are better at embracing that gift, controlling that power, and hence allowing more attempts to the point of failure to experience something unique for the very first time.
It's drive. You've just got to have it in you. If you don't have it, I don't think you're going to succeed as much as an athlete would. And you're just naturally focused and you have this fire in your belly and you just want to compete. And it's an amazing feeling. I still love competing now. I want to get out on the court. I want to compete. I don't care if I lose, just get me out there, you know? And I think a lot of these athletes, they have it in them and they love the competition. I know some get to a high level but don't like the competition. They just like the training. And so they're a different type of athlete. But I would say for me, the focus has always been there. And even in training, if a ball would go astray, I would try and kill every ball that came up as an opportunity, because I knew in a match, if some ball went astray, that's my cue. I'm on, kill the ball, win the point.
When we come back, how to deal with the anxiety before the big game. And
you think that you're not good enough. You think am I really here? I guess there's only been a couple scenarios in my sporting career, let's say, where I've sort of had down moments.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
The main objective of this audio project is to bring together entrepreneurs and creatives who share similar values so that they can find the courage to put out their authentic voice for the right people to hear, which allows for them to make their impact on the world. Every great movement started with a memorable speech. For access to full-length interviews, go to psychologyofentrepreneurship.com and click the button.
Before the break, being a fanatic and changing focus. Now, to the main course of how to deal with the things that get the butterflies going in our tummy. But before that, here are some of the highlights Peri remembers as part of her 13-year international career.
Okay, when I won the under 21 Australian singles champion, I won the title. Getting into the Commonwealth Games 3 times for Australia, also winning the medals. I was part of the team. I didn't play in the final. I have 2 Commonwealth Games silver medals, but that's as part of a team. We also came 4th in the India Commonwealth Games in the women's doubles, and that was huge because that was me and another girl, Vivian, just competing. We had no seeding, nothing. We just got through, and the New Zealand pair beat one of the, I think they were Singaporeans, and they're straight from China basically, and then we played the New Zealanders and beat them. And then we were in the semi-final, and it was just like, wow, how did we get here? We had the best draw, but we competed extremely well as well. And so I think that was really a highlight of the Commonwealth Games. Even though it was a 4th, there was no medal. You know, everyone looks for the medal, but we achieved it together the whole way through, and we'd never played doubles before. We had a match in India just with our teammates, like 1 or 2 sets, and that was it. And then we ended up beating most of the other countries. It was random, but super spectacular.
Representing your country in any final, at any level, is a big thing. What happens when the doubt starts to creep in? Peri?
Yeah, well, there's so many strategies that you're given from your coaches or sports psychs to deal with the anxiety of sport, because obviously you're generally on a big stage competing with lots of people, cameras. There's a lot of heat on you technically, right? And plus your team's there, they want you to win. There's pressure. And you could be in a different country, eating different food, not feel so well, not understanding the umpires. Everything can be different, right? Being an athlete is so random every different place you go, and you've really got to control that. So they teach you strategies how to control it. So visualization is one where you learn it, I think, from when you're young, starting, and then you become better as you get older doing it. So basically you'd start closing your eyes in a quiet place. Generally we'd lie down. I must admit I did fall asleep maybe 2 times doing this. And the coach caught me snoring. But had to nudge my foot to wake me up. Anyway, but they put on really relaxing music, and they tell you what to see. And you also have there's a special place to go. And I remember Jeffrey Hodges was one of the main people that we used to listen to for visualization. And he would create a bubble, and you're in a bubble and nothing can affect you in this bubble. And you go to your perfect spot. And my grandma has a place up on Lake Koroiba, and that was always my perfect spot. I would always go there being in my purple bubble because purple is my favorite color. You know, it's really specific to you, and you just train it. And as you get better, it can come faster. So if you're in an emergency situation, you're struggling, right? You just close your eyes quickly and just breathe, and you can see everything that you've seen prior in the visualization. So it's really training. The visualization is training for a competition scenario where the anxiety should be at its highest. So the butterflies is just one scenario whereby obviously we practiced while we were not sleeping with eyes closed. And you would just see all the butterflies coming out of your system and flying in whatever formation you would like. Mine was always like a zigzag, and all these beautiful colored butterflies. And it's actually, the butterflies are for you. They're not to make you nervous. It's to make you fly, to make you succeed. And then it just sort of relaxes you and the butterflies are gone.
Do you have another scenario?
I know another scenario I really liked using was when you've got things in your head and you can't stop thinking about them. You've got this treasure chest and you can see it as you close your eyes, and it's this old brown treasure chest, like the pirate ones. Yeah. Anyway, just a bit smaller. And then you open it up and you visualize that word that's, I can't, or something like that, or this girl has a good forehand, or something that is bothering you that you continually think over and over again. And you put that in the treasure chest and you lock it away, and you put the key and you lock it, and then you throw the key away. And technically what they're saying is that whatever was in your head is now locked away and you can't access it. So that's another one that I really, really used a lot.
Were there times that these methods didn't work, Peri? Did you ever consider giving up?
I guess there's only been a couple scenarios in my sporting career, let's say, where I've sort of had down moments. My sister was actually playing table tennis as well. So she was on the verge of the national team. And when I was 21, she was very close to beating me. And I was getting quite nervous competing against her because obviously she's 4 years younger. I'm the better player. And if you're nervous, your standard drops automatically because your shots aren't flowing, your muscles are too tense, and you're not energetically fully there. So I actually considered giving up, and I almost did. But something in my head said don't. And I ended up going, okay, well, how do I get over this then? And I ended up training harder.
Training harder? Wait, Peri, give me more details. What happened?
I was due to play a tournament in Lismore, and I ended up not going because I was too scared to lose. And then I just said to myself, this is really silly. And although I didn't like losing to her, it was the worst thing in the world. I just said, well, that's it. If you quit, there's no going back. But if you keep going, work harder. So every day I did more physical exercise than her. I put more hours on the table than her. And I made sure that I could win every match. And I did most of the time. So, but then she became a lot better as well because she started when she was 9. So I think the younger you start table tennis, the better it is for your reflexes, your coordination, the hand-eye, everything like that. But yeah, I just put in more work and my head just said, give up or go for it. And I went, go for it. And I stayed competing for another 10 years after that. So obviously I wasn't ready to retire at 21. That would have been silly. I would have wasted all that travel time and competition.
Research by Edwin Locke and Gary Latham found that when people set specific and challenging goals, it led to higher performance 90% of the time.
As entrepreneurs and creators, we love morning routines. Well, some of us, the routine gets us going. It sets us up. It makes us get out of our heads. Peri, did you have a routine before your games? Did you have a goal before you began a tournament?
My goal would be to win the tournament, but I think the immediate goal is go through every match undefeated and start from scratch. Right, I've got this opponent. Okay, what are her weaknesses? What are her strengths? All right, this is the way we play the game. So you really have to focus not on the winning, but on the process of how you are going to win. And I think that's the most important part about sport. If you really focus on the end goal, yeah, I'm going to win this, you probably end up losing. Generally, I'd have the same preparation, like pre-match preparation, and it'd probably start by filling up my drink bottle. So I've got enough water. I'd probably go to the bathroom, and then I would start warming up. So I'd sort of flex my body, do some dynamic stretching. I'd then talk to my coach about how I'm going to play the game, exactly what I said before. What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths of the person? And then be ready to execute, wait for the person prior on the court to finish, and then, try and boost myself up, positive energy, go over tactics again, keep stretching depending on how long the match before is going, and then, hit the court. I'd probably be a bit nervous. Always before a match, you're sort of a little bit nervous. I don't know if there's any athletes that aren't nervous. But I got the butterflies in my tummy, but in visualization, I've been taught that the butterflies in your tummy, you've got to let them fly into formation, and you sort of visualize them flying just up out of you, and it just helps calm me. You might take a few deep breaths and then, let's do this. Get on the court.
What happens when your internal voice is negative, Peri? How do you deal with that?
You think that you're not good enough. You think, am I really here? Can I win this? And I think most of the thoughts in your, I guess you could call it your second brain or your internal voice is negative. And in the end, I'm just like, you got to stop listening to this. And I think if you do listen to it too much, it just gets you down. It's not real. Cast it aside and move forward. Because obviously if you make a team, you are good enough, and just go forth and do your best and forget the rest.
Melissa Ambrosini in volume 21, who is the author of the book, Your Inner Mean Girl, talks about the cast process she has. And she also talks about it in her TED Talk. It is a 4-step process to deal with the internal voice.
Well, I personally think that there's only one voice, and you can call it your ego or your inner critic or your inner mean girl or your inner bad boy or negative Nancy, whatever voice you want to give it, right? And I think it's really important to give it a voice, which is what I talk about in my TED Talk. I take them through the cast process. And the first step of the cast process is C, creating a character. C stands for character.
If you haven't checked out that volume and the cast process, I highly recommend it. It is volume 21 again. All these experiences that Peri talks about comes from different influences, different things that happened, and different people that influenced those decisions.
My mother, as an example, was a PE teacher, and she taught at a lot of schools. And she actually stopped me from doing HPE at school because she said, I don't want you to end up doing what I did. She said, don't go there. And I really wanted to do HPE because obviously I was an athlete, and I'm like, this would be great. And she also said there's way too much gymnastics in the syllabus and you're not flexible. So what did I become? I became my dad and went and did a business degree majoring in professional accountancy. So of course, sometimes you just follow what your parents do. But I did that mainly because my family owned an accounting business, and so I could do the sport on the side and travel 3 months of the year while I worked 9 months. And even when I came back from trips, they would all have a go at me and goes, who's this new employee? And I'm like, oh gosh, I do work here. And one of my bosses actually said one day, listen, if you can't stay the whole day and you're not committed to this, go and work at Subway. And I was like, well, no, this earns more.
It is interesting that entrepreneurs all face the same issues: mothers, artists, academics, professionals, and even athletes. How can we just do what we love and make those dreams come true? The next step is to make sure that we can fund those dreams, I suppose. Some of us work as accountants for 9 months of the year. Some of us live in shitty houses until what we love can make us money. Money, at the end of the day, is a means to an end. Before we wrap up, here is Sarah Sutcliffe, CEO of Table Tennis England, talking about the national governing body's funding suspension. When you listen to that, I want you to understand how much governance and red tape gets in the way of people's dreams and what it takes for them to overcome those hurdles to just keep moving forward.
I think the first thing was actually the UK sport funding didn't go down as far as band 4. So table tennis was one of the sports that lost out to funding for the road to Tokyo. I think that's massively disappointing off the back of the performances of the last 4 years, when as an unfunded sport we delivered the best performances we had done for several decades, including a quarterfinal place at the Rio Olympics. But we're tackling it, as you'd expect us to do, with our own resilience. We'll self-fund the programme as we did in the last cycle anyway. But importantly, we are part of a group that are looking to talk to Dame Catherine Granger, who's come into office now at UK Sport, and talking about how things might look going forward. When it comes to Sport England, we've recently had our funding suspended because at the AGM we weren't able to secure the vote we needed to change the governance code.
On that note, what would you have done differently career-wise, Peri?
I never made the Olympics. That was the big goal I had. And I think if I look back, because table tennis isn't so big in Queensland where we live, there's just not so many training partners that you can have. The ones that were better than me were boys, and they have a different style of a game. So I think what I would have done is either got more experience internationally, or during like the holidays, the summer holidays, or another type of a holiday, I would have brought over a player just to practice with me, play games with me. And she could have been used for my sister as well. So we only did it 2 times, but I wish we'd done it a lot more, like had that extra female player there for say a month at a time. And I think it would have really helped. And also multi-ball is critical in table tennis. That's where you have a bucket of balls and you just feed it to someone. It's basically to improve your reactions and get better feeling on the ball, to say if a ball comes really fast, you're there and you can just feel where your hand is and react really quickly. And I think 1 or 2 more multi-ball sessions a week would have been really good. But I think money was the issue as well with my training. Later in life, we were saving for a house, and sometimes life just gets in the way. But I think that's what I would have done to make the Olympics, because that was the pinnacle. I think I would have even got the rings tattoo if I had, and that's not me. So yeah, I would have spent more money and hired more people to assist with our training and competition.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Coming up on the Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Of what is success when you're hunting for perfection? I think it can make it even worse. Why do we set these unobtainable standards of perfection in a way that we can't measure it? I need those morning hours to work. That to me means if I don't get them in, I'm a lot more unpleasant to be around for the rest of the day and just feel a lot more stressed. I don't ever want to hear that something's good or that, wow, that's great. I never, ever want to hear that. I would much rather have something that's far more constructive.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
I interviewed Peri because she represented Australia for a total of 13 years. She has been to 3 Commonwealth Games and has won 2 silver medals for Australia, has completed a degree and majored in professional accountancy. She's had a regular radio skit on 4BC playing the game of table tennis on the radio while being interviewed. And she was sponsored to do that. In 2010, she was in the baton relay for the Commonwealth Games. She was a girl character in the Sega video game Table Tennis for the 2012 Olympic Games. She won the Queensland Open Singles Top 10 competition, beating the top 9 men in Queensland. Her highest world ranking was 318. She did training stints in Japan, Korea, Austria, China, and Taiwan. In 2004, she, along with her sister Claire, went to the Olympic trials and lost to a New Zealand pair. She missed out on the 2008 Beijing Olympics by 2 spots and in the 2012 London Olympics by 1 spot. She is an amazing human being, a close friend, and a mother.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
This is a Must Amplify production. Special thanks to every guest expert that has appeared on the show. Editing and sound design by Tiago Vega. Voiceovers by Kelly Bunnyman. Guest research and content by Claire Gould and Corinne Castles. Project managed by Shannon Morrison. Produced and hosted by me, Ronsley Vaz. For more episodes and where to listen, go to mustamplify.com/POE.
Hey, it's Kaylee from Must Amplify. I'm the sound engineer for this volume of Psychology of Entrepreneurship. I'm part of the team that made this production come alive. I work as a part of a global team with our studios based in West End, Brisbane, Australia. If you would like a podcasting checklist, email me at kaylee@amplifyagency.media. That's KAILI@amplifyagency.media. We specialize in finding your voice and making sure it's heard by the right people. If you are considering whether a podcast is a good idea for your business, check out our other show on shouldistartapodcast.com. Cancel your plans for April 30th and May 1st this 2020 because Australia's first podcasting conference, We Are Podcast, is back for its 5th annual event. Hosted in Brisbane, Australia, this year's event will be focusing on 15 tactics to grow and leverage your podcast, your business, and your voice. You can bet that you'll leave feeling connected, inspired, and tactically armed with ways to make 2020 your best year yet. How would past attendees sum up We Are Podcast?
Connection.
Bloody brilliant.
Informative. Creative.
It's challenging.
I'd say impactful, positive,
Supportive, inclusive, completely inspiring and focusing.
Fun, helpful, and generous. It's a generous event. There's a lot of giving.
For more information and to purchase tickets, head over to wearepodcast.com. And that's a wrap.